I must have at least been telling you all for maybe at this point over a year, maybe even more, that this next Tory leadership contest is going to be not only a complete mud wrestling, mud slinging, bare knuckle boxing match, that this is going to get brutal, it is going to get dirty, and there is going to be some underhanded tactics thrown out at each other. And just as we reported yesterday, Johnson is already trying to derail Rishi's bid. I fully expect Johnson to go after not just Rishi Sunak, but probably Liz Truss as well, certainly Sajid Javid as well, and probably Nadhim Zahawi as well. Like I say, those are the cabinet members who we know are expected to run. Liz Truss hasn't yet announced her leadership bid, but she's going to announce it, from what we have heard, within the coming week. So she is going to join the fray as well. And remember, that revelation yesterday was only just the beginning. This is the candidates trying to line themselves up for the first round. All they need at the moment are 18 MPs, and then they're off. If they can secure that, they are off on to the next round. After that, they need 32, and again, they need to secure, I think, 32 again. I think, can't remember if it increases or not. I think they might decide it increases until they get, obviously, to like the final two. And then, of course, that's when the Conservative membership gets involved and they get a vote. And there's going to be hustings between sort of the final two, which will be equally as fun to watch and see. But trust me, we have, I think, yet to really see the pure oomph, the punches being thrown yet, because I think they're saving them to at least see who needs to be, shall we say, brought down first. And already the early indications are that certainly Rishi Sunak has a good polling amongst the Conservative members, but of course at that moment Conservative members don't count at this stage. It is Conservative MPs. And how is Rishi viewed by Conservative MPs? Overall, not that too well. So we don't know, of course, at this stage, who has backing of who might drop out, who might just be running to ensure that another person doesn't become MP. We don't really know. But as I've said, we've got some interesting names, as we said before. Penny Mordaunt has been thrown around for quite some time. I've been telling you to watch out for her. Tom Tugendhat, certainly very interesting. He had a good interview very recently where we talked about sort of his credentials for sort of leadership. Of course, if you saw Penny Mordaunt's address very recently, or her campaign video, you'd be very reminiscent of a certain day-to-day, the day-to-day sketch. Certainly, it's bizarre. But one of the things that this is going to uncover is the flaws, the fractures, the different groups and ideologies that are now rooted within the Conservative Party. This campaign this leadership battle is going to bring these to the front. And whoever wins, these groups, these fault lines, are not going to go away. So it could be very possible that we elect the Conservatives elect a new leader, and then very quickly they get swallowed by their own fault lines. So this may be, well, or it could maybe even lead to a time of leadership uncertainty within the Conservative Party, and it could cause multiple leaders to fall. And maybe this isn't the last Conservative leadership we see. That's some very real possibilities. So let's go diving into this, because a lot of people, just as we said very recently, are waking up to the fact just how brutal this leadership contest is going to be. A lot of people are realizing, oh my, there's certainly a lot of factions and fault lines that are certainly going to cause a lot of problems, even for whoever wins this contest. So let's go diving into that then, shall we? So before we do go into that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a motivation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So all we go to the Guardian reporting about this, saying with their title of "After the Coup, the contest that will expose the fault lines in a fractured Conservative Party." Shortly after Boris Johnson's struggle through Prime Minister's question times on Wednesday, as the list of resignations from his government grew, a senior Tory MP sat down in a quiet corner of the House of Commons and agonised over what to do. He had been loyal to Johnson until then, but he could see the way the wind was blowing. "I really don't know," he said. He grimaced and was shaking his head when asked where he stood on the great question of the moment. "I know we can't go on like this, but I can't think of anything worse right now than a leadership contest." Others preferred the consultant to consult colleagues, and the corridors close to the Commons chamber were lined with small groups of Conservative MPs holding hushed conversations. They were all agreed that in many respects, this should be the worst of times to bring it all to a head, with a cost of living crisis and a war in Ukraine both raging, to name but two of the issues facing the government. But everyone was clear. It had gone too far. The coup against Johnson had a moment that was just unstoppable. And what these worried Tory MPs most was that what Johnson's fate, but what would follow. "I think the party will struggle to survive this," said one former minister on Wednesday afternoon. "I think we were all split." The same MP said that Johnson's electoral appeal had been so broad at the 2019 general election, thanks to mainly to the, quote, "Get Brexit Done" slogan, that success had bred complacency. The party had never really addressed how it could make a success of breaking into these new areas that were less traditionally Tory. How could it govern for such a wide coalition of voters behind the blue and red walls alike? Are we a big state or small state? High tax, low tax? How do we actually level up? It has all been left unresolved. Getting rid of the PM, they realised, was just the beginning. A leadership contest would blow it all open, expose the many fault lines, the unanswered questions from the Johnson era that lay bare the personal ambitions of those who had long wanted to replace him. The former Tory minister said on Friday that he feared weeks of unseemingly beautiful parading in which candidates will indulge in policy arms races to win support. The worry is that it all descends into a Dutch auction, with people promising lower and lower taxes and even more Brexity hardlines on the Northern Ireland Protocol, and anti-woke this and that. It could all be quite damaging. Others were quick to warn of how personal it would become. Shortly after Johnson threw his towel in on Thursday lunchtime, the Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries, a Johnson cheerleader to the last and a possible contender herself, warned that the hounds of hell have been unleashed and people will shred each other into pieces in the media. It is going to be a bloodbath. And she is not wrong. She is really not wrong. And potentially, she could throw a hat into the ring as well. Now, don't get me wrong. Nadine Dorries running would provide amazing comedy value. But I really do not want her to run, honestly. There's part of me that does want it, and another part of me that says, "No, Nadine, just stay out of this one, okay? It's gonna be fun enough watching without you getting involved as well." Anyway, it continues. Zach Goldsmith, who was elevated to the Lords by Johnson, tweeted that this green agenda risks being forgotten. Most of the likely contenders are people who, on the whole, couldn't give a shit about climate and nature. By last night, the list of Tories who had made clear their intention to stand included former Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who resigned on Thursday, triggering dozens more of departures in the government. His replacement as Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, Tom Tugendhat, the Chief of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, the Attorney General Sylvia Braverman, and Kemi Badenoch, who was the Levelling Up and Equalities Minister until she resigned last week. Two more threw their hats into the ring late last night. Sajid Javid, who was the Health Secretary, was first to quit the cabinet last week, and of course the ex-Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt. The Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt is expected to declare herself a contender, but she just has, just to keep you up on that, but was not among those to do so last night. Yesterday, the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, previously regarded as one of the favourites, ruled himself out of the race. This weekend, Sunak has been seen as the early favourite and was said yesterday to have at least 80 Tory MPs signed up behind his campaign. Announcing in the social media his intention to stand, Sunak said that he wants to restore trust, rebuild the economy, and reunite the country. Senior figures, including the former Trade Secretary Liam Fox, describes Sunak as an outstanding individual who actually has a plan to see the spending of his government controlled over time. What we can't do is continue to spend money we haven't got, then leave the burden on future taxpayers. And there's been a lot of people, by the way, let's add some of the criticism of Sunak that's been thrown about, that Sunak does not have an economic plan, that he does not have a spending plan, because he certainly did not produce one during the Johnson years. And a lot of his critics are saying that he was literally flying by ear, doing whatever was needed at the time without regard for the future. But as it continues, no sooner had the ex-chancellor declared his ambition to run than the knives came out from his detractors, including cabinet ministers and people inside Number 10. Jacob Rees-Mogg, loyal to Johnson to the last, had his lines prepared, saying, "We have had a high-tax chancellor and I belong to a low-tax party, and I want to see us getting back to being a low-tax party." The Brexit Opportunities Minister told the BBC Radio 4's Any Questions early in the week that Rees-Mogg said that Sunak was, quote, not a successful chancellor. Inside Downing Street, where Johnson remained in charge until at least early September, there is the undisguised contempt from the ex-neighbour. One senior government source said that people in Number 10 had been studying the Sunak launch video and his website and concluded from some of its content that it was prepared months ago and not over the previous 48 hours as Sunak supporters had maintained. And it was obvious, they said, that it was part of a well-prepared, organised plot. One government insider said that it was clear that Johnson and his people would not go quietly, and their next task would be to stop Sunak at all costs. Johnson's close aides, including David Kenzani, were urging until late on Wednesday that the Prime Minister should not go, saying his message was, bolt the doors, don't go, fight it, said an insider. Even when Johnson did quit, there was a defiance and no talk of supporting his successor, whoever it was. It was all about his mandate. He had this mandate. There was a sense of betrayal, blaming the herd. Even if he had to go, all of his MPs in Downing Street, it was very Trump. Saturday began the rumours that Michael Gove, whom Johnson sacked on Wednesday, alleging more treachery by the former Levelling Up secretary, had also agreed to back Sunak. He was denied by Camp Gove, where Gove, to actually do so in the coming days and weeks, however, the anger and embittered Johnson supporters and at Team Sunak would be redoubled. The former vice chair of the 1922 committee of the Tory backbenchers, Sir Chris Walker, said that last night that an ugly contest was inevitable. Rishi and his camp will have to soak up a lot of that anger over the coming days and weeks to come, and that will prevent him from becoming leader? Maybe not, but it will hamper him as Prime Minister, definitely. However, whoever replaces Boris will suffer the same opprobrium to the greater or less extent. They will have to get the wrath of the disappointed. With all this in mind, Sir Graham Brady, chair of the 1922 committee, has even been at pains over recent days to try and shorten the succession contest so that a new Tory leader and Prime Minister can be chosen as soon as possible. When Johnson phoned Brady at 8:30 on Thursday to tell him that he had finally decided to resign, he was told he wanted to hand over to his successor at the Tory conference at the beginning of October. Brady balked. He thought that this was too long and urged Johnson to say in his resignation statement that he would go sometime before the conference and not have handover during it. On Monday, the executive of the 1922 committee will meet and determine how to whittle down these candidates just to two in a series of votes by MPs at the time Parliament goes to break next week. Later on Monday, Brady will meet the party's board to confirm a timetable for the hustings across the country during late July and August, followed by the voting by almost 2,000 party members. And the new Tory leader and Prime Minister will be announced on the 5th of September. With so much bad blood, the Tory MPs and members will be revealed by what the contest has been curtailed. But they will want to know that the wounds opened by the fall of Boris Johnson will not heal quickly. The defenestration of Margaret Thatcher 3 decades ago still causes resentment even today, said one Tory grandee. And I think this could be just as bad, if not worse. So already it is coming. It is coming. This is going to be brutal. It is going to be vicious. Attacks from Johnson to Sunak have already started. It is very likely he will attack his other cabinet members. Very, very likely. You've got obviously Rishi and Sunak. Obviously Sunak and Rishi, who Rishi was trying to get Sunak to back him. Javid obviously ended up running. It is likely, who knows, maybe Javid is running as a contestant just to torpedo Rishi. We don't know. We're going to have to see how these votes go, but make no mistake, this is going to get very interesting very quickly over the next 2 weeks, and things haven't even begun properly yet. Like I say, today, we'll probably find out the timetable, but make no mistake, we are keeping a very close eye at, because trust me, as was said there by these Tories, this is going to get bad. They are going to tear each other to shreds in the press. We are probably going to see pieces by them, which we will cover in the coming days when they come up. And trust me, oh boy, is this going to be fun. Oh boy, is this going to be fun. So, as always, like I say, do hit that subscribe button if you want to see the Tories shred each other to pieces just as much as I do. And of course, do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And as always, we'll see you all next time.